Claude, I've got a repo that claims the book and the machine are the same thing. Tell me what actually runs in it today, and don't be nice about it. Act 1, the book that is a machine. Most technical books describe a system living somewhere else. This one doesn't. The chapters teach a method for running a job search under a visa deadline, and the same repository holds the scripts that run it. 21 chapters, 25 command line entry points, 41 operating recipes. The manuscript and the machine are checked into the same tree on purpose. The reader it's written for is specific, an international student on an F1 visa, with 60 to 90 days on the OPT clock to find an employer willing to sponsor. That deadline is what makes the book honest. You cannot bluff a clock. Either the effort went somewhere that mattered, or the 90 days ran out while the applications looked excellent. So the argument starts with a specific enemy, not failure, fluency. Act 2, gates, not votes. The fluency trap is this: the first sign of trouble is usually not failure, it's polish. A draft reads clean, the code runs, nothing on the surface tells you a human still has work to do. So the engine refuses to fight fluency with more fluency. Every count and every confidence traces to a source. That's the verified data contract, and it's a contract, not a preference. Then the part that makes it a machine instead of a scorecard. Some facts don't lower a score, they veto, a dead posting, an impossible visa timeline, those are gates. Multiply by 0 and nothing else you believed matters. A weighted average would have let a strong company average away a job that no longer exists. Multiplication won't. And the outcome the whole thing is built to produce isn't an application, it's a skip. A healthy run skips at least half of what it evaluates. The value is in the applications it talks you out of. That is a strange thing to build, and it is the entire point. Act 3, draft until a human signs. Every recipe in the repo carries a lifecycle field: draft, specified, runnable sample, runnable live, verified. A recipe does not advance because a script passed. It advances because a named human signed a gate with their name and the date in a file you can open. That is the honesty mechanism, and it is deliberately expensive. For most of this project's life, that ladder stayed on its bottom rung, everything drafted, nothing signed, which is honest and also stuck. Then a signature landed, not the author's, a student's. 3 recipes cleared sample runs on student attestations. A connector recipe separately reached runnable live, a working scraper, no named attestation yet, 29 are still draft. That ratio is the current state stated plainly: 2 files live, 6 on samples, 29 waiting. Nobody has rounded that up. Act 4, what actually runs. Strip the ambition and ask what executes on a laptop today. The answer is more than nothing and less than the book implies. Applicant tracking scans and liveness checks run. Funding filing extracts run. Wage and occupation extracts run. Resumes render to a filter-safe PDF. The composite scorer runs. And the scorer doesn't just emit a verdict, it emits an audit trace. Every term labeled, record, model judgment, or your input, you can see which part of the answer was evidence. Now the other column, the command line tool the recipes named throughout, it doesn't exist. It's roadmap. The runtime is an AI coding agent reading the recipe and stopping at every gate. And one weight inside the scorer is set to 0. Roll quality, an entire chapter of the book, an entire evidence component, currently contributes nothing to any decision. That isn't a bug, it's an unmade authorial decision, marked in the code as unverified because the chapter never pinned the number. The code refuses to invent one. Act 5, the file that got fluent. Which brings us to the thing I actually found, and the reason this episode exists. The repository keeps a current state file. It is the file that tells you where the work stands. It reads confidently. It is clear, well-organized, and recently formatted. It is also 2 months out of date, written before the repository was recut and reorganized around it. It describes a folder layout that no longer exists. It states that every recipe is still draft, 8 of them aren't. It points to the run report that proves the project's first honest run, and that report is not in this tree. A book about not trusting fluent surfaces grew a fluent surface. That is not hypocrisy, it's the mechanism working exactly as advertised on its author. Nothing polices a status file. So the verdict: the machine is real and narrower than the book. The honesty apparatus works, and a student was the first to clear a gate, and the current state file is the least current thing in the repository. Your turn, point an agent at any repo you maintain and run this exact ask. The interesting answer is never the code. It's the gap between the code and the file that claims to describe it. The reallocation engine current state.